Greetings, this is Frosty Thundertrod, Telnor Beastmaster of the Thunder Guard, and welcome back to Shoal. So, first up, I'm going to give this little weekly recording I do a name. It's going to be Last Week in Testing. So, basically, this is not so much a news update because I work 70 hours a week. So, there's people like Richie SH, Vladis, or Nice Gaming that can give you more up to date with the actual news. I'm just going to talk about what I witnessed on PTR or once PTR is over, Alpha 2. So, one thing I kept forgetting about the last two episodes to talk about on the PTR was the road system, which is working and was nice because it's stacked with my Ranger Run buff and it also stacked with the mount speed bonus. So it was significant. And it came in 3 levels. The trail speed, which was 3%, which I consider insignificant. You can't even notice it. Then you had road speed, which was 10%, which, that is significant. And then you had highway speed, which is 20%, which is, that really makes a noticeable difference. I think that 3% for trail is just too slow. It doesn't make a noticeable difference. I think instead I would change that to have trail be 5%, road be 10%, and highway be 20%. Because at 5%, it is noticeable, even if it's just slightly noticeable. But it's also a nice even stepping, for each step up of road, you're doubling the effect 5, 10, 20. The new anvils starting area, it's not quite working. We can get into the anvils, but you can't quite start there yet. So you start the game and then you end up in the Aleian Gate to Sanctus, and then you can teleport via NPC over to the anvils. I really like how the anvils look. It's all plateaued. It's not as densely packed as the Riverlands is, but it's nice. You got all the plateaus, you got some woods, but it's nice and open and you can see around really well. I kind of enjoy it. For the most part, it has the exact same resources as Riverlands. Some of the mobs are a little bit different, and even like the ravens there are brown instead of here in the Riverlands where they're black. And they have a couple of unique mobs there that aren't in the Riverlands. Overall, I would say the level of the enemies over there in the anvils is a little bit lower, which makes sense because Riverlands is intended to only be a starting area as to where the Riverlands right now, since it was the only zone when Alpha 2 started, is intended to be both the starting area and the main gameplay area. So I imagine as the rest of the map starts to fill in, the overall level here in the Riverlands will probably go down. The game continues to look great. I ran into one of the nodes there in the anvils, and while they look similar, they definitely look different than the nodes here in Riverlands. Here in the nodes in Riverlands, I would say they're kind of German themed. A lot of wood, probably like a North German, right on the area where you're going more from Germany into like Norse, from German culture to more Norse culture, where you have stonework and you have a lot of wood, as to where in the anvils the architecture is very Tudor-like. It looks very much like a English city during the Tudor era. A lot of stucco. If you ever seen Tudor style house, that's kind of the styling that's used. I actually like it better than all the um, wood and wood and plain stone you get here in Riverlands. So I'm actually very happy with the anvils so far from what I've seen. Even though I don't play as, even though I'm not planning on playing as a dwarf very much, if at all, I might just choose the anvils to be my starting area because I like it so much better. Ooh, copper. The availability of basic resources such as copper, rubies, and zinc continues to be very good in public in PTR. Of course, some of that might be from the fact that people can skip all the low level stuff and just go to high levels. But you can see that here on Shoal where people aren't mining because Shoal is still using the 2.5 resource system, so I'm only finding copper now because nobody's mining over here on Shoal anymore. I still think the only reason Shoal is still here is so that people like me who are recording YouTube videos have a place to record footage. With that said, PTR looks so much better than Shoal does. I don't know why they keep the visual NDA up. I guess it's possible there could be some like weird bugs, but if there are any weird bugs, I'd be telling you about them. So I really think that PTR can have the NDA completely removed safely and really wouldn't hurt the game much at all. Probably give it a little bit better visuals so that people would see how much better the game actually looks with 5.6 and ray tracing. Which is kind of surprising because ray tracing in most games it has a little bit of effect, but ray tracing is more for the developers than for the players because doing ray traced lights is workload much easier than setting up rasterization reflections. That said, of course, it can, if done right, provide a better visual experience for the players, if for no other reason than the person doing the lighting, developer doing the lighting, has more time to actually set up more complex and more, natural lights instead of, since ray tracing takes less time than rasterization reflections. The of course, Phase 3 has been delayed, which I think was very necessary considering the state of PTR. PTR was supposed to have been gone 24/7 10 days ago, and only went 24/7 basically Friday. And Wednesday and Thursday, PTR was canceled completely because of severe bugs where they just couldn't get a stable server up. Which gives me the impression that Intrepid was trying to rush to get the updates out. If anything, I would have asked that they pushed it back more till like October, September, or even October, instead of just 3 weeks from August 4th to August 26th. But 3 weeks is 3 weeks, and sometimes when it comes to doing work, you'll hit a breaking point where suddenly everything gets easier, at least for a while until you hit another wall. Because that seems to have been the case here for all of 2.5, is Intrepid seems to have hit a wall what they were really struggling to overcome. Part of that, of course, was the fact that they were going from Unreal 5.5 to Unreal 5.6. And others seems to have just been some behind the scenes engineering challenges. And with the changes to the PTR here since Friday, they seem to have broken through that wall, and now they're making great progress again. But I think that's about all I have to talk about for today. Thank you very much for watching.